Hello and welcome back to Oaf Culture. This is the Oaf speaking, and I have just seen Robert Eggers' latest film, The Northman. I was shocked at how much I enjoyed this movie compared to his previous works, The Witch and The Lighthouse, and I'm ready to tell you about it. Let me start by saying this will be a spoiler-free review except for what you can glean from watching a trailer, and I don't have anything bad to say about the movie, like at all. This film, if you ask me, was generally spotless. It's not for kids and doesn't feature the purest subject matter, I say as someone raised on VeggieTales, but if I can come up with a gripe about this movie at any point, I think it'll be really that I disagree with a creative decision, so I won't act like anything I might dislike is a real problem with the film's quality. I found this movie throughout its 2-hour and 20-minute runtime to be riveting. It has a not too long, but definitely not too short intro to establish what kind of culture the main character lives in. This is a movie set in the late 800s AD, and it's about Norse or Scandinavian or Viking type people. Eggers tosses us into how things are in the main character's family and town when he's a child, and then pulls the rug out from under him and us when his father, the king, is killed. Our boy then runs away, grows up over maybe 20 or so years, and comes back to seek revenge, as is the honorable Viking thing to do. Something you notice to varying degrees, I figure based on how familiar you are with Norse mythology, is Eggers' usage of imagery from Norse myth. There's an emphasis on ravens throughout the movie, and of course if you're a God of War or Marvel enjoyer like me, then you know ravens are very important in Norse mythology, as Odin, the top-tier god, has ravens that act as his eyes and ears in the world. And I learned in this film, actually, that ravens are also maybe spirits that carry out the will of someone. And maybe that's not Odin. Maybe it's a person or another god or I don't know what. But these ravens can be spirits that are enacting the will of someone. I really enjoyed the imagery taken from Norse myth, and right now that's just kind of a thing I'm into. Since playing God of War 2018 last year especially, it's just fun for me to see that kind of thing. So I was into that throughout this movie. Something I've noticed watching Robert Eggers' other movies is that there's plenty of room for interpretation in The Witch and The Lighthouse. And so that's also a thing here. One thing you can interpret for yourself is whether there's actual Norse gods who exist in the world depicted in the film. There's plenty that happens that the characters act like is divine intervention from the Norse gods, but it could just be that they're reacting to that because they believe in it. That's kind of up to you, I think. Like I said, Robert Eggers seems to always leave plenty of room for interpretation, but I think The Northman is a much more straightforward and approachable movie than either of his previous ones. The Witch wasn't that enjoyable for me to actually watch in the moment, but I was interested after the fact when I was reading theories about the story online. The Witch may be a straightforward account of events, or some folks think it might actually be a depiction of how superstitious people in that time period would have interpreted them and would have told other people how things went down. And The Lighthouse might be a couple guys going crazy, or it might actually be some really weird stuff involving Poseidon and some Greek myth type stuff. And watching those movies, I really did feel like there must be something I'm missing. Maybe I don't have enough information. I was just thinking throughout those movies, like, what's really going on here? And that wasn't the same with The Northman, so I like that. So the point I'm trying to make with this is, I felt like I was able to watch The Northman from start to finish and receive a complete story. I didn't feel like I had to look up a YouTube analysis after I was done watching, but I probably will once I get done with this video. The movie makes sense when you just take it at face value, and I don't think that alone makes it better than either of Eggers' previous works, but I just subjectively like that better. But it does leave room for you to have some what-ifs and theories at the end if you so choose. I have one main theory that kind of turns the story on its head a little bit, but I think for the most part, everything depicted in the movie can be taken as real in the context of the story, other than a few obvious parts that are probably dreams or things like that. Eggers seems to always pick actors who are believable in their roles. Willem Dafoe is back after being in The Lighthouse, and Anya Taylor-Joy is back after being in The Witch. They both do a great job, and it's no wonder that Eggers wants to keep them around. I don't think I've seen much of Alexander Skarsgård, the star, in anything I've cared to watch before, but he also gives a great performance as the protagonist, Amleth. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He wasn't bigger than the role for me, whereas maybe Ben Affleck is kind of bigger than the role of Bruce Wayne, so I can really believe that he is this Norse warrior with all of his exaggerated battle cries and the way he communicates his feelings. I just really believed Alexander Skarsgård in this role, so that was good. Something interesting that I've seen talked about in the news, and I'm kind of coming around to the idea of it, is for Martin Scorsese and other people to say that superhero movies aren't really cinema, like they're not as highbrow as other movies. And I tend to disagree and get angry when people talk like that, but there is a little bit of merit to it, and I'm going to try to give my take on that right here. I love most superhero movies, but something about the Marvel movies in particular is that while they are generally good or great consistently, they don't always feel unique. Something Eggers gives us here, as Matt Reeves just gave us last month in The Batman, is a movie that's clearly the director's unique vision come to life. Marvel movies feel different in that you can reasonably be sure that the director is probably being directed by someone over their head, someone who's managing the brand. Maybe that's Kevin Feige or some higher-up Disney goons. This doesn't take away from the quality of something like Spider-Man No Way Home, but it explains why you may think that Marvel movies have a certain feel to them. All I really mean by this is that The Northman is definitely an artsy and unique film, and it really felt like I was having a unique experience while I was watching it. Overall, this movie is a classic revenge story, set within the backdrop of old Nordic culture. I say, as my only exposure to Norse stuff at all is God of War and Marvel's Thor. It's easy to get on board with the revenge plot from the beginning. Of course, things get complicated, and it doesn't end up being an easy goal to accomplish, and that's how the movie remains interesting. Whether you can guess the twists and turns or not, and I guessed a couple, I thought it was easy to enjoy regardless, or at least it was easy to be entertained because it wasn't really ever happy. It was interesting throughout the film to wonder how Amleth would react and what he would do next. So I feel obligated as a Protestant boy to give a content warning. The movie has a little bit of nudity and plenty blood and guts, but I don't think you're ever forced to look at anything gross for too terribly long. So I didn't ever feel disturbed by what I saw. Overall, I give The Northman 9 out of 10 times when I have thought that maybe I should play Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but have ended up putting it off. If you've made it this far in the video, then thank you very much for sticking with me. I'm glad to be making videos on this channel again for as long as it lasts, and I'm glad you're here. Feel free to like, comment, or subscribe, but of course, your viewership is quite enough for me. Thank you for being here, my friend. Have a great rest of your day. I'm really attached to this outro, even though it's real long, so I'm going to let it play. See you in the next one. I hope to pretty soon do a review of The Batman.
Get out of here, freak. You hear me? The little suit's gonna get all full of blood. Mine or yours?
Are we going to stand around here all day? Or are we going to fight?
I feel like I live in a world made of cardboard, never allowing myself to lose control. They say God doesn't close one door without opening another. Please, God, open that door.
Time and again I've been humbled you. What makes you think today's outcome will be any different?
Because this time, I won't stop until you're just a greasy smear on my fist. Here's a rare opportunity for me to show you just how powerful I really am. What made you so special? Nothing. Boy, you are in for a show tonight, son. Nothing harms me. But I know pain. Sometimes I share it with someone like you.
What are you still doing here, old man?
I'm gonna vengeance you up.